I am Rob van Leeuwen and the developer working on the Paideia building blocks for DAO Management Catalyst project. This video briefly shows the work done in Milestone 3. It has been a while since the last milestone completion, and in the meantime, Icon has released a new major version of both Icon and the standard library that comes with it. We could have chosen to keep using the old version, but decided it would be beneficial to update the contracts to the latest version. So the contracts can benefit from Plutus v3, amongst other things, and the code will also be more useful for other developers that might want to reuse it. The changes in Icon are relatively small. Most changes are in the structure of the standard library, so a lot of the import statements have to be slightly changed. The most notable change in the code itself is the validator syntax, as you can see on this slide here for the proposal validator, where previously the validator is not named and each validator type is listed as a function here, whose name could be anything else. And you need to use the script context to figure out if this is actually a spending validator. It's whether this validator is used as a spend or as a mint, etc. Where in the new Icon version, the validator is named, and a validator has only a specific set of options for the different types. If anything else is needed, you need to put it into this else functionality. But if you're using the standard types of validators, you can put it in here. So here the spend has to have this name as well as mint. And where previously something like the policy ID for a mint, you would need to extract that from the script context that is already given here as a parameter, saving on some boilerplate code. In this milestone 3, we are adding some actions and the treasury to the proposals and voting setup that we created in milestone 2. The original specification from milestone 1 included that the action identifier was being minted in the proposal minting policy, but on further analysis we realized that if in the future we add different action types, each minting policy each action might have different validation logic that needs to be added to the minting policy. So that would result in having to update the proposal minting policy for each new action type. So instead, we are creating a minting policy for the action type itself. So each action type will have its own minting policy to mint the action identifier. Besides this new minting policy, we also have 2 new spending validators. The action sent funds validator, which is the only supported action type as of now, and the treasury spending validator, which will be a very simple validator that holds the treasury funds of the DAO. And both of these are, of course, part of the execute action transaction. In milestone 2, we already had the create proposal transaction, but as you could already see in the specification, where previously we only created a proposal with it, the idea is to also create the actions within the same transaction. So these actions are referring back to the proposal, where the proposal has multiple options, at least two, where the DAO members can vote on, 0 being the negative option, so where nothing happens if that one comes up. But the action will refer to any of the other options, so one or more of the proposal. And it also has a referral to the proposal identifier so that it can be validated when the action needs to be executed that the proposal that it refers to has passed. So for each action that is part of this proposal, we also mint an action identifier into it to both to identify the specific action, but also to prove that the logic has validated that this action is minted in as a part of this proposal transaction, so that it's not possible to create an action without validating this logic. So the more interesting part of this milestone, of course, is the execute action transaction that spends treasury funds as long as the proposal has passed. So the inputs for this transaction are one or more treasury UTXOs, and of course the action UTXO. So the treasury functions similarly to how a normal user's wallet functions. So you can have multiple UTXOs that are holding the assets. It doesn't have to be all in one UTXO. And then when we spend funds from the treasury in an action like this, of course, it will rarely be the case that it will be the exact amount of funds that we have in the treasury UTXO. So we need to have some, we need to have a treasury in the output as well to hold the change of the transaction. The other output has to match whatever is defined in the action as the target. And of course, we have the reference inputs to refer to the proposal that has been passed so that the action can verify this. And also we need to refer to the DAO UTXO that has the configuration of the DAO to verify that both the proposal and the action type are whitelisted by this DAO. It could, for example, happen that a proposal to execute an action has been created, but in the meantime, a flaw or an exploit in the action have been identified. So the DAO could, in the meantime, create a proposal to remove this action from the whitelist, and as in effect, basically canceling the action from being executed. In this transaction, we also burn the identifier to make sure that it doesn't leak out of the protocol, so that no fake action UTXOs can be created with it. And finally, the validity range is important because the action could be set into the future to be activated at a future point in time. And of course, we created some tests for testing this new functionality as well, and also running the old test to make sure that the update of the icon version hasn't broken anything. And as you can see, it runs just fine. As you can see, I added, as you could see if I pressed pause. As you can see, I created a new test case for the create proposal that includes minting the action identifier. Created a new proposal for a new test case for evaluating a proposal into the past status, which is needed and used in this action send funds test case, where we send funds from the treasury based on the past proposal. The code is available on our GitHub repo, so if you want to have a look at that, you can do so, and also run the icon test cases yourself if you want to. That was all. Thank you for listening.